I'm Carina Sava, I'm coming from Bucharest, from Romania. I'm an artist manager, first of all. I manage to act at the moment a very popular pop rock Romanian band and an electronic experimental act, a one-man show. Together with my colleague Anca Lupes, we run Mastering the Music Business. It's a showcase festival and a music business conference. As somebody put it yesterday, it's Westway LAB. It's, so this is it, what I do every day. Negotiations, phone calls, emails, and a lot of meetings, basically.
I'm Vera Brana. I come from Bilbao in the Basque Country, northern Spain. And I'm co-director of BIME along with mate Julian, who wouldn't make it to come here. And well, in my day, I also do negotiations. I hold a lot of meetings with institutions, with brands, with everything, and also make calls to people so that they can come to BIME. BIME is a three-leg event, music conference for professionals, a showcase event, and indoor festival that is held in 5 days in Bilbao.
My name is Brian Hetherman. I'm primarily a artist manager and run a record company in Canada, which I've done for the last 17 years. But for the last 13, I've done a lot of international work for Canadian Music Week. So I basically don't do any work in Canada for Canadian Music Week. I do all the work outside of Canada, which is attending events such as these, meeting international delegates, and in some cases showcasing bands and inviting them back to be part of Canadian Music Week. Quickly, Canadian Music Week is the second largest music conference and festival in North America, just behind South by Southwest. It's a fairly large event. Happens every year. The last few years it's been in May because we moved it out of that snowy weather in March to get more people to show up. And so it's a traditional conference which encompasses obviously the music business, the digital and tech side, and the live business. As well, there's this year only about 600 or 700 bands showcasing, normally more. And then of course your typical conference panels and things of that nature. But I think the thing that's of most interest to most of the international people is the international marketplace, which is not something that not a lot of conferences do to the level or scale that Canadian Music Week does. It's a daily marketplace where people can meet and sort of have a main little check-in area. So if there's somebody that you want to meet that you don't already know or haven't already scheduled a meeting with, you can do that. So that's been a very successful part of Canadian Music Week now for the last 20, 25 years as well. So.
Thank you. In most cases, each country or at least region have a lot of competition. Music business is in many cases something that sort of lures a lot of talent and sort of interests. What kind of characteristics you would point out from your own festival that sort of make the difference to the competitors, especially in your region?
Well, yeah, I think probably the international marketplace. I mean, obviously, every event around the world has some form of networking, capacity. Obviously, whether it's B2B or things of that nature, which of course we encompass that as well. But I think the sort of focused, targeted international marketplace, where again you can spend 3 or 4 days, hanging out, meeting, etc. I think that's probably the thing that really makes it stand out above and beyond. And then probably, well, I guess CMW has been doing focus countries for so long now. I would hazard to say that we're probably one of the first conferences that actually started the focus country. So, and there's generally two countries of focus, one that's sort of the spotlight, and then one that's a focus on. So the spotlight country is usually the larger of the two countries and sort of the more prolific musically. And the focus country is sort of usually a country that's attached in some way, whether it's another Latin country or another Asian country or some similarity that sort of ties the two together. So I think those would be the two things that sort of really, in my opinion, from what I do at least anyway, really make the conference stand out.
I think what stands out of BMA is the connection really to Latin America. So this is really from Spain. There are a lot of connections of industry and music industry, so that we are like a bridge from Europe to Latin America and from Latin America music industry to Europe. So because, well, in America and North America the connections are established differently, but well, through Europe almost everything goes through Spain in every market. So I think this is quite important and different, in a different approach for the music conferences in Europe. And also that we are the meeting point of over 250 festivals in Spain, live festivals, and Europe. So there are a lot of promoters coming to BME to meet and to do some networking and to see the showcases. So it's a great opportunity for the artists to get contacts, and yeah, so I think that's the most highlights. Well, we also do some innovation and entrepreneurship approach, and we do have a startup competition that's really different also. But this is for technology and companies that have new technologies that affect music industry. So we have over 80 investors coming each year, and 8 companies have the opportunity to get finance at our startup competition.
So MMB is a very young festival. We had our 4th edition this year, but it grew very fast. And nowadays we have a music business conference in almost every country in Europe. But I think that it's still, I was talking to somebody earlier who wanted to do a music conference in Latvia, and people around were telling her that she shouldn't do it. And I encouraged her to do it because, first of all, I think you have to think about the local market. I think that was our first thought when MMB was founded. So one of our main goals is to connect the Romanian market with the European, and not only the European music landscape. And when it comes to maybe, I don't know, competition with other festivals, I think that one of our, one of our advantages is the fact that we are creating a bridge between the Eastern Europe and Western Central European music businesses. You also have Budapest Showcase Hub, Bush, in Hungary. And then you have how it's called, Waves Vienna, which is between West and East. So I would say that these are our main advantages.
So national, international, and headquarters combined.
Yeah.
All 3. What about economy? How does your budget builds up? Is there, would you, in general, would like to open that from the perspective, how do you sort of budget things? Do you get any money from the national or international public sources, or how much is like corporational company money?
I think when you're talking about basically what I'm here talking about, the international component to the conference and the festival, I mean, obviously Canada's known for a considerable amount of funding for the arts and culture, so everybody's getting some type of funding to do something, so it's good on that front. But yeah, I mean, Canadian Music Week is, I don't want to say heavily funded, but certainly it's more of a collaboration in many cases with some of the funding organizations. The goal and interest of any of the funders is to ensure that Canadian bands, are successful outside of Canada, and I think we're probably one of the countries that realized very early on that when you start working with people in a partnership, in a friendship capacity, that in turn, it works both ways. So in other words, you have to provide opportunity for foreign delegates coming in. There has to be a reason why they're coming to the event. It can't just be all about, oh, come see my band, come see my band, come see my band. You've got to provide opportunity. And I think that's where the international marketplace comes in handy, because it's like one of the great selling points that I've had for Canadian Music Week to foreign delegates is, hey, you're not just coming in to meet Canadian guys and maybe potentially showcasing your band. You know, it's like a mini meetup. There's like, you know, hundreds of delegates from all over the world. So, you know, I think that's a key thing in any event that you do. It can't always be about, oh, we just gotta sell our bands, and we gotta, you know, it's gotta be about giving value to people coming in. So lots of funding and trying to provide opportunities for foreign delegates. To answer that question shortly.
Yeah. Well, in Spain it's almost the same. For doing this kind of event, you need public funding, and well, we are located in a region, Basque Country, that has a lot of interest in promoting culture and creative industries. So, yeah, they fund the events, but also we combine everything, you know, with private funding and sponsorships, yeah, of course. And well, we want to give something also to the music industry, so that the people that come to BIME really they get aware of something new that's happening, or they know some festivals that they didn't know, or some people that they didn't know. So we really want to make a point, you know, and to, well, as to go for it, yeah, to make the music industry really important, because, well, sometimes in Spain it hasn't. The politicians and the people, they don't give enough importance to music industry.
I envy you. So MMB is totally self-funded. We are paying for the conference and the showcase festival out of our own pockets. Of course, we have sponsors, and with every edition, more and more brands are trusting us and are joining the party. We are selling tickets. This is something that became a very important part for us. If at the first two editions maybe the money from the tickets were peanuts, now it became an important slice for our budget. And we have two types of tickets. On one side we have the showcase festival, so people who want to see bands, to discover new bands, and then you have the pro tickets for the music business delegates. And what's very important for us is that the Romanian, and not only Romanian, music professionals and artists really trust us. And we had the event at the end of March, and we're in April, and we already sold more than 10% of the number of tickets that we had this year for the next edition, even though we haven't announced a speaker or anything. We only announced the date. So they really trust us, and they come back for more.
We also put money on our company, also puts money on the event, of course. It's not only public funding and sponsors, you can cover.
But it's important to have.
Of course,
that's something it's missing, but maybe in future years it's gonna change. We hope so.
Yeah, for sure.
This goes especially for Vera and Carina. As we are working within European Union, is there any new opportunities we see in what you know about European Union funding in cultural region, this cross-border collaboration and sort of combining different nations working together, knowing that, for example, in Norway they are using their oil money for heavily to the culture, and in peripheral countries, considered from the Middle European perspective, it's basically like a stepping stone where everything starts, that culture is quite heavily publicly funded. And is there any help from the European Union funding from your perspective?
Well, we are part of the Key Change movement. So as a Key Change is a European funded network, so we only receive for European money. We only
So
receive
you're
for that,
entitled to
and we are
apply.
also in networks. We are part of ITEP. We have so well, and well, one of our other festivals of last tour which is the promoter of PYME and also Bilbao BBK Live. Bilbao BBK Live is part of Europe also. So we are kind of active, but not for funding, but for being in networks.
Support, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are several funds. We are part of INES. Recently, we joined the huge family of INES showcases like Westway LAB, and we are part of several projects at the moment, but they are still developing. So we don't know how it's gonna work. Hopefully, they're gonna be successful. But yeah, there are several grants or I don't know, joint ventures between events in Europe.
Well, in the Basque Country, there's also another figure for interregional funding. So if you cooperate with maybe Aquitaine in the South France and other border regions, you can. Well, we are working towards something, but not still.
And the
That's
province
all.
that I live in Canada is turning into a hillbilly fascist state. So if anybody wants to adopt me over here, I'm taking considerations. If you think fascists are bad, hillbilly fascists are worse.
I don't know. Everybody knows about the support that the Canadian artists get,
Yeah.
so everybody
Yeah.
looks your way.
Yeah.
Actually.
No, it's actually, I mean, we can't complain. Well, we do still, but we
Perhaps
can't
the
really
screen
complain.
on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Before going to the content-oriented questions I have, should we take a couple of clips at this point? Is it
Well, you want
Okay.
to do it?
Yeah, I can.
Sorry.
We don't have the official after movie yet, so my colleagues put some footage from social media from this year's edition. We can let it go and without music maybe, so I can talk. So when you talk about content, you mean the conference or the festival or both?
about the clips you reserved for the situations? I was thinking we check
Okay,
them
so
out.
for the conference we had we covered several topics, almost all the I don't know, topics of interest for an artist. We had 2 days of panels, discussions, and keynotes. We had 1 day full of workshops, very hands-on. We had 2 nights of showcases with 22 bands plus 2 headliners. We have 50% international acts and 50% Romanian acts. What else? Scott Cohen in the management panel. We had about 500 delegates this year, almost 100 speakers, 120, I think, artists. Yeah. Some very tired artists.
Stages.
Yeah, this was a partnership we did with for a small stage, the INES panel, a lot of networking. This was the first year when we introduced the speed networking sessions. What we realized at past editions was that Romanian artists and younger music professionals, they didn't know how to network. They didn't understand that one of the benefits of these events is to just get in touch with people. They were very shy, so we said, okay, we will organize some official networking sessions and they will take it from there. Sado Opera had the showcase. Yeah, and you can show yours.
Okay. So, well, I already told you some of the figures for gigmit. Well, these were last year's figures. Yeah, we had over 2,000 attendees, and we also do speed meetings, a lot, over 600. It's a 3-day conference, so we have a lot of time here to fill up. And well, the attendance is this year will be our 7th year, so we are growing up, and we hope to reach the 3,000 score for this year, but let's see. As we say, we are international. The idea was originally born international, so with the connection with Latin America, Europe. This year there was also America, Asia represented. There was Taiwan, who's going to be represented next year too, and there was also Philippines. Sometimes some Australian dropped by, but well, no connections really on the topics that we talk about. So we try to make an approach to music industry with a wide scope, really wide. So not only just music, but everything that has to do with music, video games, audiovisual, video clips. We have a video clip challenge also, international. Last year was the first edition, and over 1,000 video clips took part, so participate. So we are in Spain. I think we are a reference for the professionals, and also for Latin America. Obviously, it's difficult to come to Europe, but we always make a lot of effort in communication there, and so that we have Latin American delegates, and normally we also cooperate with European institutions, also national European institutions with export offices, like, well, Dutch Impact is every year there, Holland, Germany, France, well, a lot of people. As I told you, we are meeting point for festivals, mostly Spanish and some Portuguese. This year we hope to have more Portuguese representation, because we are making an agreement with Aporfest. This is the Portuguese Festival Association, and we hope we have some more Portuguese festivals. We have part for startups. So for innovation and entrepreneurship, there are a lot of conferences, and also this startup competition with international participation. We have also training. We have a week of training for granted students. So 32 are granted, so they can go for free, and the hotel is provided and so on. But well, it's also for Basque students, more than they have this Basque students, and then some students from Spain. The training is in Spanish only. And we have the showcases. The conferences are held in Bilbao Fair, is in the outskirts of Bilbao, in Bilbao Exhibition Center, and also that's the live festivals. But the showcases are in venues, the normal concert venues in Bilbao, and so this is 2 days of showcases. We have almost 50 showcases running in these 2 days, and well, it's open to the professionals and free access to the public, so everyone can go in. The professionals taking part in BIME Pro, they have priority, of course, but well, a lot of public comes from Bilbao too. And then the the professional part and the showcases, they take place usually from Wednesday to Friday. This year is 30th October to 1st November. And the Bime Live Festival takes part Friday and Saturday, this year 1st and 2nd November. And the 7th edition, well, we have this normal festival with a very good sound. And well, we have 5 stages, and well, we hope to keep growing, and we hope to see you all there, of course.
Thank you. Well, back in the days of smoke signals and landlines for telecommunication, I was working with the major festival in Finland, Ruisrock being there. And that specific year we had one of the headlining artists was David Bowie. And when it was announced, we had dozens of phone calls to the office that there were ladies who knew Ziggy Stardust from previous life, and they needed to meet David in Ruissalo, Turku, when David will be there. So that was times of maybe a little bit simpler life and world. What kind of organization you have bumpering that kind of Ziggy Stardust approaches? How many people does work in your organization when you pick up artists you sort of put up on your program and run your festival on like daily basis level? Do you get that kind of connecting calls from very
Well, as I say, I
sources?
primarily work, well, not primarily, I totally focus on the international aspect of it, so I don't actually ever go to the CMW office. I'm always somewhere like here doing something, so I'm not really sure what happens, but I'm sure there's always like, you know, part of the program, of course, is they bring in fairly large acts, you know, that are paid acts to play around the city in larger venues, as well as having the showcasing component. And with the various award shows, obviously every year they have some very high profile acts that maybe they're playing, maybe they're not, but they're probably getting some high profile Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that. So it's like any event, you know, there's always whack jobs that, you know, that you run into, that you try and sneak back or you know, and when you're running as everyone here knows who's involved in conferences, when you're running a conference, it's not the same necessarily as a large-scale show where, you know, you've got probably pretty intense security. Sometimes there's like little nooks, and if you're in a hotel or you're in a conference center, there's always like little nooks and crannies that people can sneak in and get places they probably shouldn't.
It's also not a part of my daily job, so you know, in Lastura there's a booking department that's the largest, or marketing, I think marketing and then booking are the largest departments. So yeah.
When it comes to the conference and the festival, since it's a showcase festival, so basically we try to push and promote younger acts that are not known in the Romanian market, or they're trying to enter the market or to export, if we're talking about the Romanian artists. This is not happening. We would be happy to receive calls for them to I don't know, be met. When it comes to my other job as a manager, I manage a pretty popular artist, so yeah, it happens. I get calls that I really have to meet Tudor. Give me his phone call. It is his phone number. It's not gonna happen. But with the showcase, no, we don't have this problem. But I think we would like to. I mean, it would be a sign that it's a success. It would be a success story, maybe.
Legends. Yeah. What about these days, as the web is like a ruler everywhere, the bands can be global in a second, basically, and in not only in media but also in the fan side. Besides, people sort of monitor that kind of Instagram following or how many friends or clicks or contacts some band or artist has. What kind of indicators you sort of monitor when you are sort of you have a bunch of artists that you have to make a choice from, or to pick
Well, I think the thing that's becoming a little more apparent now is you could have, I mean, if you're on the influencer level where you've got like 100,000 followers on Instagram or something, that's usually different. It's funny now how you see so much, people that just, whether it's like females or males or whatever they are, just started out a regular personal Instagram account, and then because maybe they're hot or they're doing something unique, they get all these incredible followers, and then companies start paying them to talk about their products and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's one thing, but I think, you can also be deceiving to see, 100,000 followers doesn't necessarily guarantee anything if you're not maintaining those followers and you're also not engaging with those followers enough for them to actually sort of come out. I had a really interesting experience the last few years with one of the bands. I managed them for about 5 years, but don't manage them now. But they had a video go viral, to the tune of 125 million views on YouTube. And I can tell you that, we were already gaining momentum in many territories, from the band playing showcases and, all the other things we were doing. But, they went from playing literally 200 people a night, and whatever, in France and UK, and even in Canada, quite frankly, they weren't playing to more than 300 people. And now they're playing to 2,500 to 3,000 people a night. So it's incredible what influence, when it actually hits, when it's real, what kind of impact. None of those views were bought. They were all real views. So,
Yeah. Well, I think it's not only for artists that you need to be there on social media. So it's not only that an artist is popular and, well, if he has or she has a lot of followers, of course, it's good because you reach their people too. Well, and now is, well, you can buy that influence. So I don't know. Let's see how it develops with the boots and so on.
When it comes to booking for MMB, we do look at the social media metrics, but it's not the main criteria. So it's very important to see a very good live video in case we haven't seen the band live ourselves. But we realized that it's good to have a look at those numbers just to make sure that the band is really committed to the career. I mean, they're not just applying with a few videos, they're sending an application, but they really are trying, they're struggling to actually make a sustainable career out of it. Because if you, I don't know, have 50 people on your Facebook page, maybe, I think that you didn't even try. Maybe not even your close friends have, liked your page. So for the next year, we plan on having a few limits, but it's not going to be very strict, and it's not the main criteria that we use.
What about value of location, artist origins, or some sort of exotic type of thing? I remember there has been a sort of I wouldn't call it a fashion, but sort of bursts of artists coming from, for example, from the Nordics. In the jazz music, there has been like this very atmospheric Nordic, very spacey sound that has become basically sort of content value for certain German record label.
It's more scene-based, right? I mean, in the early '90s, it was Seattle, and then then a little after that, or maybe it was before that, the Manchester scene. So I think we all get stuck in that kind of thing. I think, right? When there's when a scene grows up and explodes, there's a demand for bands from that scene. So you're sort of obligated and forced, whether you want to or not, to kind of consider acts in that vibe or whatever you want to call it, or scene. But I think the big thing is just sort of, I mean, the UK generally always, bands tend to have a little bit more of a one-up on everybody else because they're from the UK, whether they're good or bad. It always, in advance, it's like, oh, they're from the UK. Ooh. There's a little bit of that, right? But I think it's like, it's the way we find bands is, either myself or one of the multiple other people who go to conferences to scout out bands are like, I saw this band, they're killer, they gotta play. And if it's part of the band's plan and they want to break North America, you know, a lot of times I have conversations with bands now coming to Canada that they don't even want to go to the US, or it's just too hard, you know, it's too expensive. So they use Canada as a gateway into the US, right? Which is, I think, pretty smart, you know. I mean, quite frankly, I don't even try to break my bands in the US anymore. First, I come here. I mean, you know, it's like, well, as a manager, it's like, I don't even bother. It's like, unless someone says, here's $5,000, can your band come and play? I don't even, you know, I mean, I do reconnaissance, obviously, and I spend a lot of time in the US, but I think the gateway for Canadians is through Europe. I don't think it's through America. You know, it's in the last couple times that I've had success with bands out of here, it seems like even in Canada that I can have a band be more successful here than they are in my own country, and then when we come back, it's like, oh, these guys are great, you know, it's because somebody else validated it, right? You know? So.
When you talk about this phenomena in Spain, you have to think of Rosalia, of course. Now, so well, she was so tiny, like 2 years ago. So I used to work in a venue in Pamplona, it's a small country in Spain, and she played in a small venue, so for 400 people, like one year and a half ago. So. And now it's you kind of think of Rosalia playing again at that venue. This is how it happens.
We're a very small festival.
But she's rude, eh? I like her very much. She has a lot of roots, and I believe in her. Yeah.
I was saying that we're very, very small, and when you only have 22 slots, and only 10 or 11 slots for foreigner artists, you don't really look at where they are coming from. We don't feel like it's better if they're coming from UK. Actually, we kind of get very excited when we find a very good band that we want to book, and then we realize that maybe it's from Eastern Europe, because we feel that's a great opportunity to maybe help some other bands from the region to get visibility both in Romania and for the international delegates. But it's not something that we actually look into where they're coming from.
What about language or ethnic background? Can it be a sort of a tool for a band or artist? Because I was thinking with my previous question, I remember our Karelian singing female band called Pärttinä, or Joik singers like Vimmesari, or you could drop basically names after names from each respective country, and like Balkan female singers or bands from Basque country.
Yeah, we pay attention to that.
Could it be somehow also a tool for the band that they sort of step out from the mass using their own ethnic language, and could it be sort of not a gimmick, but sort of a contact point for your ear that, okay, this isn't quite, it sounds a little bit like this or that, but they sing in their own language, which I don't understand at all, but could it work in my festival? Is there anything like that kind of sort of decision-making process when you hear a little bit more exotic bands like we heard last night in the residency bands and this showcase concerts, that we could also hear Portuguese language through a SOA interpretation in the music context? Could it be actually like a positive signal that raises your attention in an artist?
Well,
they
we do
exotic languages or.
We do pay attention in the Basque Country, of course, to people who are singing, and we encourage those bands. So we always have a spot in our festivals to bands and to artists singing in Basquish. Yeah. So, because it's our own roots, and I think it's good to at least that they can be heard locally, but in a big festival like an international festival. So at Bime we have local artists playing at Bime Live, and of course at Bime City.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, unless the band is part of the focus country, I don't think we go out of our way to find something.
So it should be lingua franca, meaning English.
Well, no, see, that's the other interesting thing too, is that, I mean, you know, our country's pretty diverse. So, I mean, you've got a massive French-speaking population.
Yeah,
You've got a fairly large Italian community, actually a fairly large Portuguese community as well, more in the eastern part of the country than the western part of the country. In the western part of the country, particularly in BC, you've got the Asian population outweighs the population of any other race. So you've got, even in the eastern part of Canada, you know, there's Japanese and Chinese artists that come and sell out like stadiums, and nobody else knows who they are except the community, right? So someone will bring them in, and it's like they're selling a 30,000 seat venue, and I'm like, wow, like where'd that come from, you know? So that kind of stuff sort of happens on its own. I mean, I think you would need to start a specific conference, at least in our country, just to address that area. It's too much for this event to tackle, or our event to tackle.
It's not something that we look into, but I believe that because it's this discussion always, if an artist that wants to break borders has to sing in English or can sing in his or her own language, I think you can be different if you use your own heritage, roots, and maybe language. And we've seen it happen in Romania, because I think some of the most popular pop artists at the moment in Romania are coming from Moldavia. And what sets them apart, it's actually the accent. They sing in Romanian, but it's that Moldavian accent, partly Romanian, partly Russian. So yeah, it can set you apart.
Yeah, it's been more than a fashion, considering, for example, Iceland. Very small nationality and very small population, but they have huge following even in the bands that sing in Icelandic language, which is mother tongue for less than 500,000 people globally. And same thing in Finland. I know punk band that's been touring United States, Brazil, Middle Europe, Southern Europe, and they have fan pages in Japan, and they sing in or shout in Finnish language.
I think it's unique. I think, you know, we've experienced a pretty heavy growth of Aboriginal speaking acts being successful in Europe, actually. Being successful in Canada, but, you know, like, so Inuit acts, which you guys would know of as, you would have called them Eskimos back in the day, now they're Inuit, but you know, you can't call them Eskimos anymore, that's not cool. And then Aboriginal would be any of the other, well, I mean, technically Inuit would fall under Aboriginal, but Aboriginal speaking, so native Indian speaking Canadians. You know, so throat singing, if you've ever seen that, that's like crazy. If you've ever seen throat singing.
From tuba.
What's that?
Tuba throat singing.
Yeah. So it's like two people, they just hold hands, and they get like, they sing from their throat, and they get this vibration thing going. It's like, whoa. So that kind of stuff is you know, it's funny because I'll talk to the embassy in Holland or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, we're having this event where they'll bring over like Aboriginal carvings and Aboriginal performers, and they'll do a whole evening and present this thing. You know, so it's kind of going the other direction, not coming in.
Thank you. I think it's if there's something special you want to point out, because it's a Q&A session part.
Let's take questions.
So,
Well, now
Yeah.
I only wanted to do
Announcement.
a small announcement, because for the first time we are going to have an open call for bands. We are launching today together with Portugal, Nuno here, and the Portuguese embassy in Madrid. So open call for Portuguese bands who want to take part at BMSCT's showcases. So I think it's a great opportunity. As I told you, there are a lot of Spanish promoters and people coming from Latin America. So if you're interested in have your gigs there, I think, well, if there's any artists here, so you should go and apply. We're launching it after, yeah. Now you're
Do you feel like there's a preference in terms of genre that you set in your festival?
Well, we are open to every genre, but well, of course, folk music is not that because the Showcases Festival is inside the festival, so the connection and it has to be current. So you can have urban, you have electronic, indie, rock, well, whatever, but well, not so much folk, not so much pure jazz maybe, but well, if you mix, everything is welcome. But our booking team will do the selection, so.
And I should add that the White Portugal Open Call for the INES showcases will be open until May 15th.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So you have
Forgot
for a
that.
month
Sorry.
to apply.
Yeah, you have to.
And then INES will make the selections and
Yeah.
we'll pool together the resources to ensure that the artists are supported as well as we can.
What's the platform to apply for bands?
It'll be directly with INES.
So you have through White Portugal, so all the information will be in Portuguese at White Portugal website.
And it'll be circulated before the end of today.
And for startups, what's the schedule to?
We are opening call. The open call will be at 3rd June, and it will remain open until 15th September or 14th, the Sunday of that week. I don't know now on my head.
Can I have a question for every one of you? Is it important for you to have an idea of the band or the artists that are contacting you to play in your festivals, that you have an idea of their audience in your country or particularly in your region? Is it important? Not, let's see, you have 10 slots and you have 20 bands that you really would like to see in your festival, and if you were able to see which one of them had an audience, a higher audience in your country, would that matter or not?
Yeah, it could help. It could help because it would mean that you already have a starting point in the Romanian market. So basically what we want to do with we want to keep the festival very small, but we want to pay more attention to the bands that are playing in the showcase. And for the next year, our plan is to assign a mentor from the delegates, from the professional delegates for each band, so that they can help them out during the conference and the festival. That's one thing. And second, we want to do several partnerships with the venues and the Romanian festivals that are already supporting us in order to pay more attention to the bands that are playing at the showcase. So if they already know that you have an audience in Romania, it might be pretty helpful for them to book you, and that would be maybe an incentive for us if you're as good as the other bands that are applying to book you. So yeah, it could help.
I was going to say, anybody in this room that's in a band can apply to play Canadian Music Week. We have a lot more showcase slots than most festivals. So, if you're good and you've got a story, if something's going on, more than likely you'll get accepted. In my case, my primary goal is not necessarily to find bands when I go to different events. So if I'm only going to recommend a band that I'm not going to get chastised for when I go back, and present it. So it's like it's going to have to be something that's either really great live, or there's a story, or there's a group of people behind it, or whatever the case may be. Or all three of those, exactly.
And would it be important, for example?
Sorry, let's take a little break. We have 5 minutes for the changeover for the Fushina keynote interviewed by Alan McGowan. So, last question.
Right. Okay.
Pressure.
So, would it be important to come here to Guimarães and ask Nuno, can you show me which bands I should go and watch? Because
probably do that.
You already know that they have an audience in.
Yeah, I would at any event. I always ask everybody that I know, hey, who are you going to check out? what are you
Yeah,
going to
but
see?
would it make a difference if I would say to you, there are two bands you should see?
It would
and
probably
they're
make a
playing
difference.
at
I
the
mean,
same time?
I've been vetoed before, you know, and stuff. I've gone to see stuff that just literally blew the roof off the place, and the actual booker is like, yeah, you know, doesn't see it. He doesn't see it. They don't see it live, but they hear like a link or an audio link or something, and you know, so you know, whatever. So I guess it's a taste thing, right?
Oh, we'll take it.
So.
Is that it? Or one more?
I think you should probably switch.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.